Hi everybody, this is Pinky from Flom Fitness. I'm going to show you guys how to maintain your home poles for safety to make sure that they are secure and not going to come down while you are practicing on it. So this is for if you have an X pole. If your pole does not spin, some of these things are not going to apply to you, but I will let you know when we get there. So overall, the most important thing to know is that there is a set of 3 screws that take your pole up and down. And then if you have the spin feature, there's two screws at the bottom that are spin and static mode. If you have the newer model PXX pole, you have the click lock base, so you don't have these anymore. So when I'm talking about the lock and unlock, just make sure, you either have the click lock or you have the hex key. So 2 at the bottom are spin and static. 3 up here are for putting up and taking down. So when you want to maintenance your pole, and this is just a good to do maybe like once or twice a month, just to make sure it's nice and sturdy, you're gonna first make sure that your pole is in the lock position. So if you have the older style, just like maybe last year or prior to that, you'll have 2 X's on the bottom of your pole. There's 2 set screws here. You wanna make sure that the set screws are lined up with the X, and the screws are gonna go all the way in with your hex key. Once they're all the way in, you should not be able to jiggle your pole at all. It should be nice and secure and locked. So if you try to turn it and it doesn't go, you're in good shape. So we're gonna start to loosen up our 3 set screws up here. And this is, again, where you're gonna put your pole up and down. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and loosen these. And I always remember lefty loosey, righty tighty, so that you know you're going in the correct direction. You don't have to pull these all the way out, just about halfway will do, just so we can just push the pole down a little bit. So I have my 3 set screws that are out and the pole is in a locked position. I'm gonna turn my pole 3 times to the right. This is going to start to loosen it up. So I turn 1, I turn 2, and I turn 3. Okay, and what this is doing is this is kind of helping get the threads kind of moving in there. They have a bunch of, like WD-40 or lubrication in there. So it's good just to kind of get things moving and make sure everything is in place where it needs to be. So once I turn it 3 to the right, if I turn it anymore, you're gonna notice that the top of your pole is gonna start to get loose, and we don't want that because we don't want the pole to become uneven at this point. We just wanna kind of reset everything. So from here, I'm gonna go back to the left, and this is gonna tighten my pole, and I'm gonna do the same 3 turns that I just did. So 1, 2, 3. Now this is where you should be kind of very focused on making sure that your pole is secure. If you give your pole a tug and either the base or the top are shifting, your pole is not tight enough. So if the top of your pole is right up against your ceiling beam, or beyond your ceiling, there's a beam there, you might even hear a little noise where it's kind of pushing up into your ceiling. That's a good point where you should be like, okay, it's secure. But again, if you're shaking your pole and you see it moving, you're gonna wanna go ahead and tighten that a little bit more. Now, on the interim, everything is made to line up with itself, and so that lets all the set screws go all the way in where they need to go. So very, very, very important here. There's a line. Some are red, some are just a line. Either way you have it, there's a line, okay, right down at the base of your pole. There's also 3 little keyholes. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And what you want to do is make sure that when you're putting your pole back up and you're tightening it, one of the keys has to line up with that line. If it doesn't, your set screws will not set all the way in. They will be stuck out and you can get cut. Okay, so wherever you are, you're gonna make sure that it's in alignment, and then you're gonna go ahead and retighten your set screws. Again, if it's not in line with it, you're gonna notice that your set screws might stop here. That is a good indication that your pole is not in alignment. Okay, so I'm gonna go all the way in, boom. The screws should just set right into this piece so that it's completely flush. And I'm gonna go ahead and retighten all 3. Now, there is such a thing as having a pole that is too tight. So a good way to check this is to lock your pole back up. If you do have that spin feature, you're either going to unlock it from the bottom, or if you have the new click lock base, you don't even need the hex key anymore. If you do have the style where the hex keys are in the bottom, guys, you do not need to pull this piece out any more than being flushed with the pole, okay? So sometimes people like overdo it and they're sticking out, and if your foot or something catches that, it's very painful. You will definitely get scratched and you will be bleeding. So you only have to put it out until it's flush with your pole, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and loosen up both of these. And then I just give it a little turn. And if I feel like it's a good spin, I'll kind of get up on it, do maybe a little fireman spin or a little rotation, and make sure that it's a nice clean spin. If your pole is too tight and you can't spin it from here with your hand, you're gonna relock it up, loosen up the set screws, and give it another 1 to 2 turns to loosen it because your pole is too tight. So again, if your pole is not spinning correctly, it is too tight, okay? Lastly, I had a question about give on your pole. The give on your pole depends on the height of your pole. So obviously the shorter the pole, the less give. And by give, I mean when you pull it, it kind of flexes a little bit. Poles are meant to do that. Again, the higher your poles are, the more flex you're gonna get. Flex is fine. What you wanna be more concerned with is if the top of your pole is moving or if the bottom is moving. So if it's sliding out and you see it shifting, definitely you know that your pole is not tight enough. I also say record yourself when you guys are doing some, heavier spins and heavier rotations. And there was somebody, I think a couple weeks ago, that I caught, and they were on a spin and the top of the pole started to shift. And so I messaged that person hey, you got to tighten your pole. It's moving. And they didn't even really catch it. So just to give you guys a heads up, definitely video yourselves. If you see something moving or shifting, you know that your pole is not tight enough. So again, try to do this maintenance 1 to 2 times a month if you can, especially if you are actively on your pole. We were not in the studio right now, so we got to do what we got to do. So that's how you maintain your pole at home for safety. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. If you don't have an X pole and you're not sure how to do maintenance, contact me directly and I will figure it out with you. Okay? Thanks, guys. Have a great day.